Babe of the day. Babe of the day. Madeline Smith. This week I'll be doing two videos on actresses named Madeline Smith. They are both pronounced the same, but the second one spells Madeline different. The first one is a British actress, the second is American. Both of them are talented, and both are knockouts, but they can't be more different from each other. Be sure to watch my next video for the other Madeline Smith, coming up on Wednesday. Madeline Smith put the hammer down to become the first Bond girl of the Roger Moore era. Keep watching to find out what I'm talking about. If you like my videos and want to see them sooner, become a member. You can see hot new Babe of the Day videos 1 to 2 weeks before non-members. For just $1.99 a month, you'll get early access and you'll also be able to see some members-only stuff. Madeline is really something else. In an ocean of models and young starlets, she stood out. Madeline had a natural advantage over a lot of other girls. She had an incredible build, for one thing. Big eyes that immediately captivated you. And a sexy, pouty expression she couldn't hide, not even when she smiled. Her life and career is about as uncomplicated as you can get. Often when I talk about actresses, there are difficulties. Career struggles, personal strife. Although I never like to delve into the negative too deeply, you can't entirely avoid it. With Madeline Smith, I'm happy to say that, besides her beauty and talent, she is as ordinary as her name. Madeline fell into her line of work and just rolled with it. As a teenager, she worked at a boutique in London. The founder of the boutique urged Madeline to get into modeling, based on her knockout looks, and the rest is history. By the age of 18, she was already getting parts in movies. Her first role was in the British comedy movie The Mini Affair. Georgie Fame, a popular singer in England, was the star, and the Bee Gees did the music for the movie. So this was a pretty good starting point for any actress. Later in 1968, she had her first small part in an American movie, playing a nun in The Killing of Sister George. Most of her film work, though, would be in British comedy and horror. Madeline's most famous thing, besides being a Bond girl, is her work in the horror movies from Hammer Film Productions. Hammer was a good studio, no doubt about it. Although some of their movies were violent, their horror was often on a psychological level. I've always thought that if you can get freaked out without actually seeing any blood, that's the sign of a good horror movie. On top of that, Hammer tended to cast the best looking, best acting women. Madeline's first Hammer film was in 1970 with Taste the Blood of Dracula, starring Christopher Lee, one of the most famous Dracula players of all time. Right after that, in the same year, she was one of the sexy stars of The Vampire Lovers. She had a big part in this film, and this is probably her most iconic role outside of her Bond movie. This movie, especially at the time, was daring on a few levels. For one thing, it had a number of extremely sexy vampire women, and for another, it was pretty explicit in depicting lesbian themes. Madeline played Emma Morton, who you could call the heroine of the film. She's one of the few main characters who live. Madeline continued working in more British horror and comedy movies, especially comedy. Although she still appeared in horror movies for other studios, her next Hammer horror film would not be released until 1974. Strange enough, it was filmed in 1972. Frankenstein and the Monster from Hell had Madeline playing the female lead, a mute girl nicknamed Angel. This was her last go at Hammer, and the movie performed poorly at the box office. Hammer was in decline at the time anyway, so you can definitely say Madeline put the hammer down before she was a Bond girl. See? I told you it would make sense. In 1971, she gained another point of distinction. She made her first appearance in the Up Pompeii film series starring Frankie Howerd. Frankie was an extremely popular comedian in England, and he had a TV series before this called Up Pompeii, which was a spoof of ancient Rome. Like the Carry On movies and a lot of other British comedy movies at the time, Up Pompeii carried on the tradition with having lots of sexy women around. Madeline was in Up Pompeii in 1971, and in the third film of the series, Up the Front in 1972. Up the Front was set during World War I. In Up the Front, Madeline actually plays the love interest of Frankie Howard's character. In 2019, Madeline returned to the series, sort of, when they put on a full cast audio play to celebrate the 50th anniversary of the series. She had another big part as Ammonia, the wife of the senator. Ammonia is the mother of the character Madeline played in the film, named Erotica. 1972 saw another career milestone when she became one of the Carry On girls. Carry On was a super successful comedy franchise, mostly movies, but also TV specials, a TV series, stage shows, and a novelty music album. There were 31 movies in all, and Madeline made her appearance in the 23rd film, Carry On Matron. If there was anyone who deserved to be a regular girl in Carry On, it was Madeline Smith, but odd enough, this was her only appearance. Also in 1972, Madeline appeared, for the first time, in something you could definitely consider a family film. Although all her film work had been mainstream up to this point, it was definitely not for little kids. The Amazing Mr. Blunden was a family mystery film involving ghosts, but it worked because Madeline was already known for doing horror movies. 1973 was a landmark year for Madeline. It was at this time she played the first Bond girl in the Roger Moore era of James Bond movies. The movie was Live and Let Die, and she was Miss Caruso, who looked really good in her blue dress, but Bond thought she'd look better out of it. To test his theory, he used his magnetic wristwatch to unzip the back of her dress. To this day, this has to be the coolest romantic interaction between James Bond and a woman on film. That was just darn cool. Although Live and Let Die didn't make Madeline Smith a superstar, it did get her recognized by the American audience in a huge way. I think the vast majority of Americans who know about Madeline Smith saw her in Live and Let Die before anything else. And of course, being a Bond girl definitely doesn't hurt an actress's career. She still had steady work after this. In 1975, Madeline married actor David Buck. She still worked heavily in the early years of their marriage, but by the mid-1980s, she decided it was important to prioritize and put family first. Madeline and David had a daughter, Emily, in 1984. She still acted for a while after that, but by 1986 she was done. David passed away from cancer in 1989. Madeline would not return to acting until 2011. I've talked a lot about Madeline's film work because that's what people remember best, but she did a lot of work on British television throughout her entire career. As a matter of fact, she first worked with Roger Moore in a 1971 episode of The Persuaders. He liked her so much in that show that he recommended her for his first Bond movie. Madeline appeared in a lot of adventure and comedy shows on TV. Towards the end of the first part of her career, she did something really unique for her. From 1982 to 86, she appeared in an educational series called Eureka. The show told you the stories behind the inventions of common objects we take for granted. It was presented by way of reenactments and sketches. Miss Caruso is an awesome role for sure, but Madeline's other work is worth a look or two. Or 3 or 4. Check out what she's done and what she's doing. For her beauty, whimsy, and the good sense to use it in shows people want to see, Madeline Smith gets the legendary title of Babe of the Day, Babe of the Day.